Yeah.
Okay. So this afternoon's session has a dual purpose. One is to understand the insights that you've had and what you might do differently, and also to provide us with some insights about how we might improve upon the simulation. So Chris, is you there?
Okay.
We'll go with Chris first. Insights?
Kind of said, we don't want to use the word negative, but opportunities for thought, maybe, and then we looked at things that we thought were positive. So through the process, it is very interactive. So I think we understood things better by doing than by sitting on an Excel spreadsheet or slides or PowerPoint. It gave us a better understanding of flow. I thought that the use of value stream mapping, that one of the positives is it gave you a quantifiable measure method so that it's not just an opinion. Like when we first started, all had opinions, and at the end we spoke with data and speak with opinions. Positively, the employee engagement increases with this type of process. We'll give this one a double-edged sword. It increased our knowledge, my knowledge of the lean insights, but it also let me know what I don't know. So what do we call that? Cognitive ignorance. You know what I don't know, so
you're consciously unskilled.
yeah, we were like something say dumbass on Friday. More dynamic with the lean process. The lean process, we're looking at each other in a U-shaped cell. We had a communication process that was a little bit better than blow and whistle, balloons launching across the room. It just was anarchy. This was a little more interactive, a little better dynamic. Negatives was, again, from our point of view, is the difficulty of implementing this in an office environment and trying to compete in an office environment to think like hack time. We're not making widgets here. We're using our intellectual knowledge, So there's going to be a bit of a challenge there. We're probably going to need a little bit of support from Paul and some of their group to just how do you communicate this and get a buy-in from the guys in a office. I'm an accountant. What's this got to do with me? Also, we thought one of the negatives that could be perceived out of this is the perception from the employee that the issue or the opportunity lies with him. When you have the hidden factory, the machine, the this, it's the this. Lean very easily shows the where and the who. And what we need to do and understand as change agents is that we should also be focusing on mentoring skills, because when you point to an individual or into an individual process, how we address that, because the data will show where and how and who. How do we, as change leaders, mentor, facilitate rather than hunt? I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I mean. So it's something that we should be cognizant of. And again, lets us know what we don't know.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks very much. Who's going to present for this team at the back?
It'll be me way over here. I'll have to walk over there so I can see the right. Yes, spaghetti. One thing I learned, it's not a spider diagram, it's not a logistics diagram, it's a spaghetti diagram. So we focused a lot on the aha moments that we all took away from the session today. And the spaghetti diagram, I mean, it's a very great visual indicator of your flow or your lack of flow. And as Chris was saying, an office environment where he and I both work, I think that could be a very powerful tool, because when you're out on the operations floor, you can see the flow. But when you're working in an office, most of the time you're working with some type of a computerized system, and you can't see the flow, and nothing is visual, and you look out on the floor and everything looks fine. But when you actually map out all the touch points, I think we're going to get a very different picture than what we see today. And the concept of flow was another aha moment for us, and just it's how important it is just to manage the flow through the entire process. And one of the ways that we do that is obviously with standardized work, and that's one of the elements that we need to bring in first. And the 5 elements of the Achieving Excellence system, we obviously need to incorporate those into everything that we're doing here. Bringing the work to the workers was a bit of a unique concept for us because traditionally we had been looking at bringing the workers to the work. So we've kind of had to flip our thinking sort of on its head and look at things a little bit differently. We now recognize the importance of the logistic team. They're not the root of all evil. They're actually important. The end on. There are logistics people.
I just wish they were here.
Yeah, I know. They will be.
The end on, even just being an observer, that was a really powerful tool that we saw. And you know, I don't think that we use that quite as much as we should. The teams working together, and again, coming back to the synchronized flow, simplicity. In aerospace, especially in engineering, we tend to overcomplicate everything, and we need to look at things a little bit differently, make them a little bit simpler. The result of the flow on the SQPEC, I know, Paul, when you were taking us through the actual SQPEC matrix and the impact of everything, for a lot of us, that was another one of the aha moments. Value stream mapping, line balancing, just the power of the tool that was there. And I mean, things that we can bring back to our jobs and our roles. This was a shocking statistic for us. The percent of value in aerospace versus Toyota. We're talking about in aerospace, well, what was the number? It was something like
0.75. 0.75.
0.75.
0.75%, so we're not even at 1.
8%.
And the best of the best is only at 8. I mean, and we talked about the gulf between those two, but if you look at Toyota and the potential that they have, I mean, it's staggering what the numbers are. We noticed between round 1 and round 2, the value through proper setup and training, because we had no setup, we had no training the first time, and it was pandemonium. And actually, things worked a lot better with just some more basic setup and training on the setup, training on the roles and responsibilities. The impact that small changes can bring in terms of big results, where we just in the second round put the tables together, use the Kanbans a little bit better, and all of a sudden, I mean, the numbers were so much improved from the first round. And a couple of things that you had said, Paul, just on the last 2 points here, is if you don't focus on the right thing, you're setting yourself up for failure. And we also realized how easy it is to focus on the wrong thing. So I mean, if you're, you know, jumping to conclusions and assuming that you know the answer before you go in and you know, sift through the data and really get to the root cause and understand it, you're probably not going to get this level of success that you need to get.
Great, thanks. Okay, and the last team is going to be presented by
Alvin?
So the question is, what insights have you had today? So yesterday we think standard work is like robots. Like today we think standard work is not make people to be the robots, and it's actually visually manage your work. And yesterday we think Lean is very, very complicated. Today we think Lean is actually very simple. And yesterday we think if we don't know how to improve, should we do value stream first, or Yamazumi first, or the SQPEC, lots of things we can do. But today we learned the Lean tempo. We know that there are 7 elements in the Lean tempo. We need to do the visual management first, TPM, 5S, and then we can do the standardized work. Then we do the problem solving, and then we build the foundation first, then we build the 2 pillars. The left side wall is JIT, another one is building quality. Then, when we have these 7 elements together, we can achieve the amazing customer experience. So we know how. Before, you know, it's very hard for us to understand which way should we go first, what's the sequence. Also, there are some simple things we can do to improve things dramatically. So before we think yesterday, it's very hard to improve. But right now, we think by implementing those the tools that we learned today, like the Yamazumi, the value stream map, it's a very visual and very useful tool for us to make a dramatic change. And the next thing we learn is the cost will follow the flow. So the flow is the key, and then the cost will follow. And communication, problem solving, Anto system. This is everything we learn. So it's understanding yesterday, and we understand now today. And so tomorrow, if we're going back to the workforce, we're facing all this resistance. If we can convince the people lean is actually thinkable, and we know how to do it, and result people together, we can make things happen, very dramatically. So we can reduce the resistance and actually make things happen. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Did we significantly spend money on new tooling between round 1 and round 2?
No.
No,
Did we change the materials that you were working with?
no,
Did we change the people out for better people?
no,
Did we conduct half an hour training before we ran the lean round?
no.
So really, as leaders within the business, we only really put people together with some plant and equipment, with some parts and materials, none of which we've changed. It was the processes. We changed the way we organise labour and the systems of production by simple techniques. We 5S'd so things were in fixed positions. We visually managed what the parts look like next to the job where the job's done. We gave standard work so people could understand where the errors were likely. We built in quality to the standard work about the clamp. And then we put some simple card pieces of paper in and media containers that control the amount of inventory in the system. Did we back it up with 10 million spend on SAP? No.
No.
Okay, so there is a real message here, and we need to be careful as change agents. And I wouldn't say this to the leaders, I'm saying it to you because you are the change agents. There are complexities that we have to consider when we make changes. The complexities of taking an inspector out and asking them to become a water spider or an assistant change agent. That is a complex process really when we consider unions, when we consider the organisational development. Changing the kit of materials, creating the Kanban card. There are difficult calculations to be made about lead time, security of supply, economies of batch sizes. But we're not there today. How do we see over-processing? We don't have to worry about that. We will get major benefit from reducing motion and conveyance, transportation of motion. Another complexity will be how do we apply this in the office? And you will get, and I've just been speaking at an event in the UK, in the government sector, public service in the UK, so whether that's health provision, taxation, or the way we look after unemployed and sick in the UK, it's a service provision, it's not about building a product. They have been Toyotaized and thought we just need to let's get a load of guys out of Toyota, bring them into the hospitals, and they'll obviously make people better more quickly. It doesn't work at all. There are different things that you do in new product design, in a HR office, in finance, that requires a different set of tools and techniques, but the principles remain the same. For example, I would not use value stream mapping in engineering design or in a HR function. I would use something called service blueprinting, which is the way that we understand how service is delivered and the moments of truth when we touch the people who consume the services, what they perceive. It's a different thing. The value is different. The value proposition is different in those services.
It's interesting because literature gave Gord's read from the MIT on how to do value stream mapping in product development. Didn't say that they said something similar, but they called it value added, form fit function improvement. The other one was, what did you call it? You called it non-value added, necessary, essential non-value added, which is meetings to talk about it. And then governance, they said, is non-value added. And they said, so they kind of clarified it a little easier, which was actually interesting. But it'd be interesting to learn that process that you talked about.
What you've got to remember is that you are the senseis, supposedly. You've been brought in as change agents to advise the operational leaders about the tools they should use, so you should know the tools and the principles. You need to read, you need to get involved with people who know these things, you need to research a little bit. Does anyone know the literal translation of sensei?
This is teacher.
not literally. It literally means he who has walked the path before. And all that means is that you just need to sharpen your sword a little bit more than the leaders do. You need to know the tools and techniques and help them take that path with you. Okay. So we don't want to blind people. The whole reason for using a simulation is to get people closer and warm up towards lean. It is simple at their level, and for the next 10 years it will be simple here, until we get into the situation where we're now looking at reducing Kanbans down to single police form, not 5. That will take some complex calculations. We're not anywhere near there today.
Do you see, I'm just looking around the room here, you said these are kind of the people in this company that are going to do these changes or have been tasked with some of these changes. Do you see value that we have a Kaizen gym there to maybe getting us together once a month and practicing, working together as a team, sharing lessons and saying, hey guys, once a month, let's spend 2 hours together. What have you read?
Sounds like a fantastic insight to get on the bottom of one of these sheets, that the change team should be meeting on a regular basis. Stop running around chasing fires.
Right.
Come and have a look where the fire extinguishers are. One day a month. Together, what have you learned this month? What have you got wrong this month? Right, at least I won't make that mistake this month. A little bit of internal coaching with each other. Why wouldn't you be doing that right now? The Kaizen gym has 3 particular uses for me. One, it's like a simulation. It's a great area to run a simulation like that. Secondly, it would be a good place for you to practice, whether it was an SQPC morning meeting or whatever it is. Set up a mock one, get round it, practice it as a group of change agents. You be the OUM, I'll be the audience, you be the change agent. How would this work? Practice your coaching before you go and get us. And lastly, probably, when you get rid of the simulations and you get into technical detail, set up some technical jigs and workplaces in them where you actually get people eliminating waste in component setup. In Toyota, you will see a whole bank of tyre fitting jigs, a dashboard jig where they lift dashboards in and out 100 times to work out how you do it the best way and most safely with the highest quality. Why wouldn't you have a place like that? A technical Kaizen
You
jig?
have a pilot line that people won't mind.
So you know what these things are. Okay, good insights. We'll capture those and collect those for this next session. For each insight, what would you plan to do back in your job? So if I'm going to split you up into groups of 5 again, and you go away and do this exercise again, you would come back with 5 things, just one thing each. We've only trained for about 4 or 5 hours, so I'm not going to ask you to write a master schedule of things that you've probably already got 1 or 6 that you're currently failing to achieve. So just based on your insights today, what's the one thing that you might do different when you go back to work tomorrow? The one thing. Just put your initials next to it. Yeah. Because say again?
We'd write that down.
Based on your insights, you're going to go into the syndicate areas again, as a group, bash them out, talk about them, challenge each other on them. I think, for me, from what I've learned today, I'm going to do this when I go back. And there's my name on there, and the other group might be sparked by your idea, might challenge your idea, but when we come back, we'll have a list of just one thing for each person in your group that they will do. Because it's all about, and that would be, at this stage, you're going to plan to do that. And as a company, we're very good at planning to do things. We have plans all over the place, don't we? With red on them. But a plan requires something to be done by someone at some time, really. And one of the issues that we face as a company is that we can overcommit. We say yes to everything, You're that used to saying yes to each other that it was really easy for us as a company when we came in, because every time we said, you need to do this, you said, yes, yes, yes. Of course we will. And do this as well. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And you were saying yes to every person who you met. How that translates itself into real behaviour is, you fail to be punctual, you fail to time manage, you fail to deliver against your commitments and your master schedule plans and your backspike, and you end up on a training course where you're also trying to manage your job and making phone calls, disappearing early and not paying real attention. Presence is key, being present for people. If you chase 2 rabbits, you're likely to catch neither. Sometimes you have to just pay attention to something and other things have to be put aside. There were 24 people invited to this session. We've ended up with 13, 14 people. that is indicative of you as a business. And those invites went out a long, long time ago. And people agreed to be here who pulled out this morning. It's indicative of where you are as a business, reactive still. So, a plan requires something to be done by someone at some time. Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Well, otherwise it was just a thought. For each thing that you will do, how will you check that it has been successful? So this is you all shouting up to me, here's 1,000 things that were wrong with this mass simulation this morning that you guys didn't get right. And they were all subjective, all correct by the way. But if we had done all the things you said and changed them, would we have been able to measure the difference before and after? If we hadn't done the SQPEC, we hadn't done the work balance, and we hadn't done the value stream. So for this thing that you write, me, Tony Gallardo, based on what I've learned today, in my coaching in the future with OUMs or line leaders, I'm only going to ask them to do one thing each week or each month, and I'm going to do something for them. That might be your thing. Who's going to do it? TG. When are you going to do it? The date that you will commit to, that I will come and see the outcome of what you've done. There's got to be if there's no change after investing a day like this, then we're all wasting our time, including me. Yeah. And I'd give you, if we didn't do these things that we commit to, I'd give you the money back for today. And I've never given money back yet. So you're going to do it. So when you come back, there will be something that you will do differently. And a date of when you're going to do it by. We will contact you as a group of process confirmers. Myself, Tony, Louis, Orville, James, Jim, and John. And we will come and process confirm with you. Watch what you're doing differently. Help coach you a little bit. And record the results. Just to give us all a bit of practice of process confirming. So is that understood? So you've now got about 10 minutes to work together as a team to pull that one thing that you'll do and when you'll do it together. I'll give you a shout when that time's up.
We're each doing what?
Is it, are we each, Paul, the one thing where each committee